Welcome to the Modern CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping accounting firms achieve success. If you're an accounting firm owner who wants to learn how to provide virtual CFO services, then this podcast is for you.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Today, I am super excited about our guest, Emily Morgan from Delegate Solutions. She is a company that we have been working with now for a couple of years, and I know me personally as a director at Summit, it's made a huge difference in my job. Having someone that's in the administrative space really help with a lot of the delegation and doing those administrative tasks for me on a day-to-day basis. And as we go through this podcast, I will definitely throw some examples out there of things that have really helped me, but I'm really excited to hear Emily kind of talk about her background as well as her business. So welcome to the show, Emily, and start off by giving us just your background.
Hey guys, thank you. So we're a 13-year-old company, and it was started by me when I was having my son, and I had a background in administrative work, had always done that for a career, and realized I didn't want to deal with a commute and managing a young child. So kind of came up with an awareness about the virtual assistant industry and realized I could do this work from home while taking care of my son. So it started with just me for a number of years, and sort of we grew and grew and grew, and now we have about 40 team members all across the US. The majority of them are mothers with children, or they're caring for aging parents, and they really value the flex work that we offer, but also we make an impact in the work that we do with entrepreneurs. So it's a unique kind of offering that we have.
Awesome. Yeah, so I know the big thing for most business owners is giving things up. It's a very hard thing to do and to pass things on. So I think that's what I'd love to kind of spend time talking through today is, what are the tips you have for people that are owning a small business and hesitant to give things over to an administrative assistant, especially an outsourced administrative assistant like you. So I'd love for you to walk through that with us and really just kind of give us those, whether it's 5, 6, 7, whatever the number is for the number of items that you think that people need to commit to in order to really make this work. Because like I said, I know it's worked wonders for me, and it's really freed me up to do more of the things that I really want to do and that are, I think, more valuable for me here at Summit. So I'd love for you to kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, because Jamie really sucked at it. So thank you.
Awful. Yes.
Your team's been very helpful. So no, it's great.
True.
I mean, he's always bragging all the time about how they kind of help him sort through his emails and everything else. I mean, there's just so much noise these days. I mean, if you just turn off all your, electronics for a couple days and then you turn it back on, you just get enamored with all kinds of, things. And most of it's junk and most of it is noise, but being able to quickly get through that and be ready to go. I think, Jamie, you mentioned that was like one of your big things. And I know a lot of our CFOs have also started doing the same thing, and they talk very highly of it. But we've also been just finding different areas where you've helped us out, your team. I mean, that skill of just being really good at the details and having somebody that can kind of pick up those crumbs really makes a big difference for us because, another example is I know the auditing department in our sales process, there's a couple of things that need a human touch. We can't completely automate them. And so by having your team kind of interject themselves in that sales process and that follow-up, it's not necessarily anything we need from a technical standpoint. We just need some warm touches. That's been a big help for us, all the way over to, our marketing directors also using the service very similar to how Jamie is, just with a lot of very specific administrative tasks, and saved us a ton of time and has really put us in a good spot to do our thing. So.
Love hearing those things. Thank you. We've worked with you guys a long time, and similarly, you guys are our virtual CFO, and it's been a game changer for us as well. So thank you for the partnership.
Yeah.
But at Delegate, we're a premium virtual assistant firm. We work only with entrepreneurs, and we're really industry agnostic for the most part, but we're really focused on helping people create more time and leverage in their day. So it's all about not only being a delegation resource, like someone that you can ask to do X, Y, or Z, but it's about helping them figure out what and how to delegate, because that's where progress comes from. So like just delegating tasks, you'll feel a little bit of impact, but when you have a partner that can help you put a delegation strategy together that's really tied to your goals and priorities, and let's look at all the repeatables that you're doing in the business. How can we capture those and turn them into a process and make them delegatable? It's a different way of working with clients, the way that we approach our service.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because you're right. A lot of people just don't know where to start and they're scared to give up. I mean, just specifically in our industry, in the accounting industry, we're known for hoarding work, because we're afraid of letting go. But it's also one of those things where you're not exactly sure how far to go. So if your team's able to kind of work with us and, put that stuff together, that's always a huge help too, I think, for, just getting started.
I think the biggest thing for me, and Adam already mentioned this, and I know he made it as a joke, but I feel like every job I ever had in my career, my review always came back as, hey, you're not very good at the administrative stuff. And that's just always who I was. Like expense reports, I always turned those in late. And like just things like that just drove me a little crazy. And then my email, I'd fall behind on that. And so I think that whenever I have a to-do list, anything that's administrative in nature just falls to the bottom. It's just the way it is. It's stuff I don't enjoy doing, something I'm not good at. And so I think having that relief of, oh wait, I don't need to do that. I can just send that over to my delegate person and she'll do that for me. It's made it so much better. And I think that it's made me better at my job because, like I said, this has always been my weakness, is just doing the administrative stuff. So that's been very helpful for me.
Yeah, and our team has a heart for admin. Like it is what inspires us. And I think a lot of people, specifically entrepreneurs, are like, well, who wants to do this kind of stuff? But we do. Like, it's like the thing. I'm like, who wants to do that? But
exactly.
There's people out there that love this work. Like my team would tell you, we love to be behind the scenes. Like they enjoy helping people make an impact. And we're able to do that because we're going to bring the follow through and the attention to detail and this sort of prescriptive way that we work with clients to help you be more impactful with what you're trying to do in your work.
And it shows too. And I think the other part of that that's funny to me is I've really been pushing you guys on our CFOs. I was like, you guys have to use Delegate. You have to use Delegate. And I think oftentimes they feel bad. They're like, really? Why would I give my expense reports to someone else? Or, even, and we'll probably go down this road a little bit, like some of the personal stuff you do for me. Like, one of the things that my delegate person does is if like I need to make an oil change appointment, I just put it on a to-do list and she does it for me. And it's like, I can't tell you the looks I get from CFOs when I tell them I have you guys doing that for me. Like, really? Why in the world are they doing that? I'm like, well, that's what we pay them for. That's honestly part of their job because it frees me up to not have to think about that all day, that I have to make an oil change appointment. So I'll tell you, a lot of it is just like, really? I don't want to give that up. I feel bad.
We know that he has some help because his spelling has improved too. So just saying, like his grammar has gotten a lot better. So we're like,
Definitely.
Supporting on the personal side is a huge part of what we do because it's such a blend, especially now, like we're all working from home and there's just no more boundaries with work. So personal, like identifying personal tasks, it's a huge part of how we support clients.
Yeah, that's amazing.
For sure. So I guess if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm listening to this podcast, I'm like, there probably are some things that I want to move over. Where would I start? What are the tips you have for me?
Yeah. So I think first of all is start small, right? So you don't want to just delegate a huge thing and it implodes and you break all trust and ambition around delegation. So, what can you do to compartmentalize larger things into smaller parts? So for example, like if I say to you, well, hand us your scheduling, that might feel really scary, right? But if I say, let's come up with a way to automate sales meetings for you so that we're giving you a little bit of time back. We baby step into more large scale schedule ownership, which gatekeeper scheduling is a huge part of what we do because it's really where you're going to get the most time. But think, start small, build the confidence in the delegation process itself as a first step.
Start with oil changes.
No, and I think just to kind of like tie this to my story a little bit. So when I started working with Delegate, the first thing I did was give my email over, and I didn't like fully give it over. I came up with like I sat down with the delegate person I work with and basically said, okay, I eventually want to do more, but let's just start with you filing away these certain types of emails, and it started very small. And now, like, again, I'm in my email a lot less than I used to be, but I think starting small within individual tasks helps you build that confidence up. And then I think another thing that Delegate does really well is you guys do this for a lot of people. So you also bring ideas to the table of like, I need help with my email. And you're like, oh, what we can do is we can start with ABC, and eventually ABC can turn to A through Z of all the things you're doing for my email. And so I think that starting small worked really well for me, because like I said, it was very simple at first, and now it's much more complex, and it's probably like a 10-step process that you guys go through every day for me, but it started as just 1 or 2 steps. And I definitely agree with that sentiment, because it helped me a ton.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that consistency is key too. I mean, the thing is like we just get lost in the whirlwind like most entrepreneurs do. And then, just being able to always rely on that person to have that part done really makes things go a lot easier. Start your day off a lot better, for sure.
Yeah, and maybe the second sort of idea that I would plant is, you really have to have the mindset to just let it go, because you reach a level of complexity where you simply run out of time. And so then you start to think about, well, how much is my time actually worth? And if your time is worth $250 an hour, and you're making your own oil change, it's kind of like you can pay someone $50, $60 an hour to handle those types of activities for you. And I think it's important that, when you're trying to think about what to delegate, we actually have a download of tasks by category, just like as a brainstorming tool. But look at what you're doing each day that's repeatable, because if we can identify some repeatables, we can build process around those to take them off your plate. So anytime you see yourself, doing your expense reports, or, whatever the personal task is that's every single week you have to do it, that's an easy place to start by delegating.
Yeah, you nailed it. I think that's exactly right. I mean, we talk about it all the time, whether it's your production people, admin, anything that's repeatable should be delegated. Almost, that's where you should always go. So it's a great tip. And I'm glad Jamie didn't break into song. He heard "Let It Go," and I was like, "Oh no, here we go. You're gonna get them all worked up, and we're gonna start hearing some tunes."
My show tune, yeah. A little bit of Frozen. Yeah, no, I think the other thing too that I think goes along with that a little bit is pushing stuff towards me. And so oftentimes, like, you kind of have to create stuff. Like, one of the things that I work with Delegate on is there's some reports that I want to see every week. And one of the things we originally did is, why don't you just put it on a Google sheet, and I'll go check it every Friday. And oftentimes it would be 2, 3, 4 weeks before I would go check that. And like, oh yeah, I wonder how this is doing. And what I rely on Delegate for is to push stuff to me. And even if it's that same Google sheet, it's just a message in my Slack saying, hey Jamie, this report's been updated. You might want to go check the team's hours, or just something like that I can go and do. And it's things that, you may not be doing already, but you thought, oh, well, it'd be really nice if I could do that on a weekly basis, and having Delegate push those things to you. So that's the other thing is, not just looking for those tasks that you're already doing, but something that you kind of think would really help with your job, and just pushing that over to a Delegate Solutions as well.
And I think it feels a little different than whenever it's just an automated reminder or something like that. Like whenever it comes from someone, you're a little bit more in tune to, like, hey, I need to check this. Somebody's taking time out of their day to build this for me, so I need to do it. It gets automated. Sometimes you just turn those off. It's like an alarm clock or something. So yeah, it's been helpful for us as well.
Yeah, we do a ton of work with accountability management, whether it's just for the entrepreneur or the leader, but also for the team. So if you run on EOS, for example, and there's to-dos coming out of meetings, just, having a way to follow up with people so that the leader's not the one having to leave brain space in there to remember to do that.
Yeah.
Great. So once I've built the confidence up and I've been able to let it go, not singing, but I'll be able to let it go, what else should I be doing in order to be comfortable with moving stuff over?
Yeah, I think another trick that we try to promote is really getting comfortable with 80%. So, and that can go a couple different ways. One, it can mean, is this going to be good enough if it's done 80% as well as I would do it? That's one way to take that. But it's also about, can someone get this 80% of the way done? Just get it started for me so that when I come in, all I'm doing is my 20%. So like, for example, let's say it's a newsletter, right? So with Georgia and I, we have a monthly big newsletter that goes out. rather than like me having to trigger her to do that, we have a template around how we get that out. She puts it all together, and then I just simply come in and write my little article and we're done. And that's how we get stuff done, is that mindset of like, just get it 80% of the way for me.
I think I'd be happy with 10%. It's definitely, I mean, these are all great tips for any kind of delegation for sure. It's always, I always say I step into somebody's office and just drop anchor, because I need to pull somebody else in with me in order for it to be done. And it kind of sucks whenever you have two people that are kind of the same way, moving different directions. So again, having that consistent force that's like kind of anchored in and giving you that, and being okay with the fact that it's not like perfect. I think that's another struggle that people have whenever they delegate anything, especially if it's like work, like production work going to the end user. They're probably a little bit more forgiving on the administrative side, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. You probably hear it there too, but yeah, people just have to get used to being like, most of the way is great. Like I can pick up little pieces and carry it to the finish line, but getting started is always the hardest part. So
yeah, like I'll even use that if I'm like avoiding something that that I know I need to get done, like I need to write this article or something like that. Like I'll have Georgia just get it set up for me, put a time block on my calendar, link to whatever I need to see, and then it's like, I got to get it done. So it's like, it helps you actually make progress on stuff too.
It sounds like we have another 80-20 rule. And that's the funny thing. It's like there's so many of the 80-20 rules. I think it's just in our podcast, we probably have talked about like 4 of them, but it sounds like we have another one now. So that's very helpful.
We're just trying to get everybody used to just perfection is your worst enemy. Like, let it go. It's just like, you're cool.
Perfection, exactly.
That's right. That's right.
And
that's great.
From there, it's really important that you have really strong communication with whoever you're delegating to and with. So if we use a lot of strategic coach tools, so 2 big ones that are really important with this point is an impact filter, which is really great way for a leader to download their ideas around success criteria around a project they're trying to hand off. So we will prompt clients when they're like, hey, I really want to do this. It's a gut check for the client around urgency and priority with the importance of that project. But if and when they decide it is important, you're giving your delegation partner everything they need to get that going for you, because you're identifying the success criteria around what success looks like. You're agreeing on, who's doing what by when, which is another important part of delegation. But then also, like, as you're going through delegating a larger scale thing, communicating back and forth is important. We use the other strategic coach tool called an experience transformer. So when things are done, what worked, what didn't, what can we do better next time, is sort of built into how we approach these larger projects too.
What about just like I know how it works for us, but what about whenever it's just kind of more day to day, week to week kind of stuff? What's a typical cadence look like in communication for most of your other clients?
Yeah, our team, if we're working with you 1 to 2 hours a day, the team is checking in, moving things forward for you about 3 times a day. So you may hear from them across the day, like the service is designed, so it's not just like 10 to 11 we're working, but it's like 15 minutes, 30 minutes at the end of the day. So I think, for delegation to work well, you have to commit to being responsive. We hold weekly planning and accountability calls with clients, and that's really where a lot of those deeper conversations happen around priorities and project status, stuff like that.
Oh, okay, so at least a weekly touch.
Definitely need a weekly meeting if you're doing anything more than like very basic stuff.
And I find that the communication's 2 ways as well in that. And so how it works for me is I have a OneNote that I share with my delegate employee. And basically it's in there I have one section where I'm just taking notes of feedback, and they take notes for feedback on me as well. Like, oftentimes I'll think of something like, this is something else I can add to their do list for me, and I'll just be itemized in there. But oftentimes, like, I'm not giving enough information. Like if I want an email to be sent, I'll be like, hey, can you send an email to this person for this calendar? And she'll have to respond back to me and be like, like, yeah, can you tell me what it's about? So I can at least like include that in the subject and like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so it's also feedback for me of how I can use them better as well. So I think that weekly meeting has been really effective for us to be like, this is some additional stuff I want you to do, but then also, like I said, getting me the feedback of, I could have done this a little quicker if you would have given me this ahead of time. And so it's kind of a two-way street for me, at least.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had clients come to us, maybe it's not working with their current admin, and I'm asking them, are you doing this kind of meeting? And they're typically not. And I think that kind of meeting can transcend the whole relationship and really change the way things are going between the two, because the team member is running that meeting. You guys are just showing up to it and participating, but you're not in charge of the meeting.
And yeah, we do the same with our clients and agree 100%. Being able to have that face-to-face and just, I mean, so frustrating so many times whenever I'd watch team members just like trade Slack messages or trade emails, and you can see the communication thread.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my gosh, just pick up the phone or get on a Zoom meeting really quick, please. It'll just save so much stuff. So that weekly touch point makes a lot of sense. Do they typically, how does it work? Like, a typical engagement, if somebody just, has a thought that pops up in their head at 3:00 in the afternoon or noon, because I'm sure, you have kind of a set block of time. So is it within the week or is it within the days? How do you typically like to structure that stuff?
To be responsive?
Yeah, just, if I'm contracting somebody for 5 hours a week or something like that, but it's sporadic through the week, is it just one of those things where, what's that usually look like?
Yeah, so it'll be at least a half-hour weekly call, and we kind of pick when that call occurs. But then otherwise, they're taking that hour a day and they're breaking it up across the whole day. So it's not about like a specific, our team, because of the nature of being so fractional, like we rarely will commit to like, we're going to work on you from 10 to 10:15 every Tuesday. Like it's really hard to try and deliver on that. So we just say 3 times across the day. You may not hear from them, but they're sort of like reviewing the inbox or, sending meeting confirmations, stuff like that during the day.
Yeah, that's great. Because I mean, now you got coverage all day, even though you're only paying for kind of a fraction of that time. That's what's really difficult when people think about outsourcing services, or, it's the responsiveness that they get concerned with. They're like, hey, I know I only really need the butt in the seat like 5 hours a week, but I almost have to pay for them for 40 because I don't, I don't know exactly when I'm going to need them. And sometimes it flexes. And by having a fractional service like yours, that's able to kind of break it apart down like that, because you're able to spread across, different clients, is a huge win, I think.
Yeah, we did, going through COVID, we've rolled out a full-time offering now. So we have that as an option if clients need that. We've structured it within the way that we know we can deliver the service, but full-time capability.
Oh yeah. I mean, with everybody going virtual, you've got to be getting super busy. Your services are only going to expand as everybody gets used to just being on Zoom all day and figuring out how to work, across lines.
I met Jody because we were both running virtual teams, and I feel like I know I have been, and Jody would probably say the same, like for 13 years I've been banging the drum around why it can be done virtually and having to fight that battle, and then in like overnight that changed. So that actually has affected us in interesting ways because now I'm competing for my talent in a way I never had to before either, because now everybody's remote. It's a remote job now. So that's been interesting too.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those things where, like, on one hand, like you said, the customers now are like totally into it and they can get on Zoom because they had to get on Zoom because their kids are on Zoom, whatever it is. But you're right. Now it's more of a competitive market. It's like, cool, but now more people are starting to wake up and do it. So I guess it's a good thing overall. So.
And I think that obviously Delegate's been key for us in being virtual. So it's interesting you and Jody met that way. But I also think that it's been very helpful in the way we've done our virtual environment, is to have just those tools at our fingertips. And so I think that's definitely been a key for us. So we're getting close to probably the last 5 minutes here or so. So Emily, any other things that people need to be thinking about that are going down this path?
Yeah, this one, maybe everyone won't like it, but it's a fact and I need to say it. We really need to be committed to the boring stuff of our businesses, whether we're doing it or not. Like, it is the backbone of what makes our companies what they are. And our ability to execute it on it in an effective way is, the differentiator between our service and the next person's service. So I think it's important as leaders to accept that that is a fact of doing business, that like a lot of what we do is kind of boring, but there's also people that love the boring stuff. And, you have to be the champion for making sure that that's being executed at a really high level, even if you're not the one doing it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like I already mentioned earlier, that was the stuff that I always struggle with, and it's now being done for me. And like I said, it's made a world of difference. I can't say it enough. It's definitely made me better at my job. So Adam, any other thoughts from you as well on this?
I just need some bookends here. I'm going to put you on the spot, Emily. I heard boring, admin, whatever. Give us some, like, the craziest request, like your team has said that they've had to do, and it can't be change the oil. Some guy asked me to change his oil for, like call and get that scheduled. You got to have something without revealing too much, just so we know where the level of crazy can be, so that we can, that'll open up the door for me. It's like, okay, so I'm not asking him to do that. I can definitely ask him to do this.
This is not the first time I've been asked this question, and I think it's hilarious because the admins know everything, right? Like, we know all the secrets, for better or for worse. I can share when I was the virtual assistant, I had a client that was my old boss, and he was like a millionaire, and he went down here in New Jersey to his shore house, and I guess he needed some pants. And so, like, I had to arrange for his limo driver to go to his house and pick up his pants and drive them down the shore. So, like,
okay, well, he didn't ask you to put, that's the nice thing about being virtual. You don't have to do that. You just have to arrange for somebody else to do that. Awesome. That's cool. Okay, so at least I know where my limits are, right? So if that's okay, then yeah, definitely the oil changes and some of that other personal stuff are definitely green lights.
Maybe this podcast will help Adam. I know Adam uses you guys some, but he could probably use you guys more. So
well, now you totally opened up. Like now that I know where the limits are, like there's definitely a lot of area for more.
And I think the team will have even better stories because I'm a little rusty on doing the work. I'm busy running the company.
Because you delegate. Yeah, see? Yeah.
So now my goal is not to be one of those stories. All right, I got it.
I'm okay with being one of those.
And Kaylee, they'll tell you some good stories.
Sure. Awesome. So definitely appreciate it. And I definitely, for all of our listeners, we'll have a lot of information in the show notes. I think, again, especially for me, this has been the biggest game changer that I've done in the last 6 months. And so I would definitely recommend it. I've recommended it to my clients. I know a lot of my clients have been happy with it as well. So definitely check out Delegate Solutions. And thanks again for joining us, Emily.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great to see you guys.
All right. Thanks.
Enjoy this episode? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving modern CPA firm success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.